Okay. So let me give some context or so. I'm in the middle of a video that we just saw. Well, not really in the middle, which is like early in the video or so. It's one of Aspen Gold's videos, right? And it's talking about the I guess the cultural shift, I guess you could say, question mark, of the American people after the election of Trump.
And so
So I'm gonna be listen. We'll listen to this. We'll see what this is all about. You know.
I wanted to talk today about why that actually happened, why I think it happened, and where the culture is going to be going from this perspective, right? From this direction. And so, anyway, the first thing you have to do in order to explain where it's going to go is to explain where it came from. So, the reason why I think a lot of this happened, and we've had a shift, and before I do that, I'll also
Mm-hmm.
explain where I think this shift is coming from. I think that we are shifting away from a more censorship heavy, a more, censored speech heavy, compelled speech heavy, and I think that you're seeing a lot of backlash against, what were considered to be like, protected types of thinking and protected groups of people. You're seeing a tremendous amount of backlash against it. And I think this is mainly evidenced on Twitter, but you can see this in YouTube comments. You can see this in comment sections of any game or like any video. I think that in general, you're just seeing a massive backlash against what people believe to be authoritarian levels of compelled thought and compelled speech. And big surprise, where did compelled thought and compelled speech come from? Where was the genesis of that recently? Definitely from COVID. And I think collectively
I feel like ever since COVID hit, like everything has strangely changed, and not even for the good, for the worse, to be honest. Ever since that pandemic hit so hard, it's been so weird. Granted, I've never experienced any of these IRL, but I've seen like the videos and everything. And Jesus Christ, this fucking frame rate. this fucking this fucking Jesus Christ. I swear every time I pause a fucking video, I always get the most weirdest fucking facial fucking pause ever. Anyways, but yeah, ever since COVID, it's been kind of weird. It's been very weird. I've been observing what you guys have been doing so much, you know? I don't know about a soft reset. I don't know about a soft reset. It's more like it like mentally broke a lot of people. I would say that, to be honest. I don't know about a soft reset.
government and the social media websites, the way that they handled people that were dissenters during COVID, the way that they handled that caused a schism in the trust of the people into the government, into these companies, into anything. And I don't think that schism, I don't think that that disconnect is really going to be mended anytime soon. I think it's probably going to take 10 to 20 years for that trust to be rebuilt, because people would be hearing, oh, well, it's going to take 2 years, or sorry, not 2 years, excuse me, that's actually what it did take, 2 weeks to stop the spread. And just where I'm at.
Yeah, yeah, I remember this too as well, that you're just supposed to like wear a mask or so and stay like what 5 feet apart from people, and then you're supposed to take the shot or so, like the shot for the COVID or so, so then you won't get sick. But I've never taken it. I've never taken the shot. I just let my immune system kind of fight off the infection.
Ask, this will solve it. Just take your vaccine, this will solve it. And I think that the messaging for COVID in general was very authoritarian in many cases. And I think that also there were countries besides the United States that were even more authoritarian with how they handled COVID. And because of that, guess what happened? You had a lot of people who were like, yeah, this is fucking bullshit. We don't believe this, and we want to be able to think for ourselves. And when they did that on social media, they got in trouble. Now, you can think that that's a good thing, or you can think it's a bad thing. I'm not really
The only thing that was mandatory was certain jobs that you had to take the shot.
going to try to convince you one way or another. But I think that really the big shift for that was COVID is what really started building up that resentment. And then that resentment finally boiled over, and people were able to express it when I believe Elon Musk bought Twitter. because before Elon Musk bought Twitter, there was almost no avenue on social media that you could actually speak your mind and give like a honest opinion on things besides maybe 4chan, right, on poll. And so besides that, you couldn't really say what you think. You can't say it on Reddit, you can't say it on YouTube. YouTube is probably the most the most liberal with that. You can pretty much say almost as much as you want, but YouTube does still have a lot of restrictions, more so than Twitter, for example. You can't say what you want on Facebook, you can't say what you want on old Twitter, and basically all of these social media platforms that people used were used as basically tools to compel speech and to suppress people's thoughts. And I think that if you just take a step back and you think about this from an abstract, I think that you need to come to the realization that people don't like being told what to think, they don't like being told what to say, and they don't like being told that, and they don't want to be told what to do, right? I mean, at the end of the day. And so anybody who's trying to take an authoritarian stance, trying to tell you what to do, you're going to automatically get a negative response from that, at least here in the United States. And so that's happened, I think, as a result of COVID. Elon Musk buys Twitter, and now all of the people who didn't exist are making up for lost time. Like, I'm not saying this is a good thing, but holy shit, there is a lot of racism on Twitter now. Oh my god. And do you want to know why there's a lot of racism on Twitter? I'll tell you why. It's because there's a lot of racist people. That's the reason.
Of course there are. Whoever thinks that racism is gone is delusional at the end of the day. Like, there are a lot of racist people. I know that for a fact,
Anybody who can speak English all over the world, except for maybe a couple of countries, a few countries, probably more like it, can make a Twitter account and express exactly what they think. And so, big surprise, you're going to have people that live in totally different cultures expressing viewpoints that are not congruent with liberal Western values. And this has been a very, very upsetting reality for many people that use Twitter, but in my opinion, I find it to be a very sobering fact. I think it's extremely important to know what people are actually thinking, rather than having a manicured, curated, and censored view of the world that immediately shatters whenever you introduce it to actual reality, which is what I think happened with the 2024 election. I think that people imagined this was going to happen because all of the celebrities said this was going to happen, all of mainstream media said this was going to happen, and then the day comes and it's actually something totally different. And I think that what this has really happened is that people are pushing back against basically there is a false god of authoritarianism that a lot of people online have prescribed to. They have been worshiping this false god. And I think that they are doing that because their other previous gods were determined to be false. There's always the quote of God is dead from Nietzsche, but that's only half of the quote. The full quote is God is dead and we have killed him. I think that the society that's totally killed God, there's no sense of religion in culture anymore. And I think that's by the way, that's very upsetting for many people. Religion is a very reassuring thing for many people. I am not a religion enjoyer, personally.
Same. I'm not a religious person either.
I think that you guys probably know that. I'm much more of an enlightened, euphoric atheist. But at the end of the day, I can recognize that it does have an ordering, I guess, like function in a lot of people's lives. And so when you're taking that away from people and they don't have access to what would be a way to order the universe and a way to see how things are, they're going to invent their own way to order things. And I think that the way that they did that was they replaced religion with political dogma. And I think this has happened in a lot of cases. And really, people that attach their meaning and like their identity and like their feelings onto these different movements, I think that for many of them, they're looking for something that religion or some form of like existential reassurance would give them. And I think that the movements, whether it's a political movement, whether it's a social movement, whether it's a social cause, I think that those movements actually for a lot of people now are filling the place that religion previously had. And I think that if you don't think that's true, just look at how they fucking defend them. I swear to God, there's people, you'd get less pushback from blasphemy in a lot of churches. And so, yes, people get very, very, very attached to these things because they built their entire identity off of them. And I think also this is especially true with young people. And with young people, it's that they've had unironic arrested development from COVID. And I think this is true not just for, it's like, oh, the kids are retarded. No, no. I think this has happened for a lot of people, including young adults. And so you have people that spend, let's say the ages of, like 15 to 18, locked down in COVID. Well, big fucking surprise. Whenever they turn 18, they're not going to know how to act. And they're going to probably still be acting like 15-year-olds.
Yeah, but at my age of 15 to 18, right? Many millennia ago, right? If even if I was locked down or so between like 15 to 18, right? It's like, I'm still taught, certain mannerisms in certain ways or so on certain things. I don't know, maybe because I was just raised in a different environment. I don't know. I guess I'm just from the void. The void is different, okay? I gotta remember this that the human world is not the same as the void. I always gotta keep remembering that specifically. We are not the same. I think there's a different playing field and the playing ground or so when it comes to void compared to here. So
And so
I keep forgetting. I keep forgetting every single time. It's like it's completely different.
So you have people that have been developmentally, basically arrested, and they've taken 3 years of like social development and socialization, and just pretty much outsourced it to a social media website that's fed them.
Well, that's their problem. They're fucking online all the time. I'm like I'm like that's their fault for being online all the damn time, freaking mentally online. And then their parents fucking letting them be online 24/7. Just saying. I'm just saying.
Them a worldview that's completely distorted. It doesn't represent anything in real life. And now they go into real life, and the dissonance between what they believe the
Their parents, but their parents can teach them about real life. You know? The parents could also teach them, but they choose not to. So,
world should be and what the world is gets bigger and bigger, and I think it makes people angrier and angrier. And I think that that's really where a lot of the hostility is coming from. It's the refutation of those types of people that have used political dogma and social, like socio-political issues, and they've replaced religion with these things. It is a pushback against those people. And the reason why I think this pushback is happening is very simple. It's because people just don't want to hear what they're saying, and they don't agree with it. It's actually just that simple. And so for a long time, you were not able to express your disagreements. You were not able to tell anybody that, like, yeah, I don't actually think this is true. This isn't really what's happening. And because you would get banned. But that all changed when Elon Musk bought Twitter. Because when Elon Musk bought Twitter, everybody who had an opinion was able to say what that opinion was, for better or for worse. And I think that we've seen a lot of both of those. And so now what we've had is that we have tons of people that feel, uniquely emboldened in a way that they hadn't really in probably 10 years on social media, given the level of censorship and control. And now people are going and saying what they really think. And I think that they're doing so in a manner that is making up for lost time. And another big component for this is that I think that there has been what I would really kind of refer to as emotional blackmail that's been going on for a very, very long time, where you can't have certain opinions about certain topics because it can be perceived as being mean, or you can be seen as a bad person.
I think that's pretty stupid in my personal opinion, where people use emotional blackmail to get you guilt trip or so, to feel bad for the situation, even though it logically makes no sense whatsoever. And the logical way to do things is a little bit more harsher than whatever the fuck the person is using, emotional blackmail for that person specifically, to trick them or so, to make them feel bad or make it feel like they're the bad person. Like, it's just terrible. Like, honestly, it's just really, really bad. Why do you think, like, the void specifically, like, Like, we have people who are logical individuals, and yeah, some of the choices are kind of a tough pill to swallow, but like it's logical at the end of the day because everyone weighs out what what the good of it. Like, they weigh the good and the negatives, and if there's more goods than negatives, they're going to choose that option every single time, to always minimize the situation itself. I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes I can never understand, you know, people over here on this side. It's like, why are you using like an emotional thing or so? Hey, Ruben. So that's the only thing.
I think that there's been a level of fatigue that is caused for people, and it's like eventually, like, for example, somebody thinking that they don't want illegal immigrants in their country, this doesn't necessarily mean that they're like a racist or a Nazi.
Whoever thinks that they're racist or a Nazi or so just because they don't want immigrants in their country or so is probably the lowest IQ conversation I would ever have, to be honest. I'm like, just come into it. Like, it's for any country specifically. If you want to live in the country, you come in there legally, okay?
And so, because of that, and the emotional escalation and the emotional blackmail that people use in order to try to force people into having these certain types of worldviews, the optics of these arguments oftentimes become more important than the arguments themselves. It's kind of like what I've said before, is that the strongest argument isn't an argument. Many people do not operate based off of logic or reasoning, they operate based off of emotion and feeling. And big surprise, that's been what's taken over a lot of things. And also, this is very important.
I feel like if you hold a lot of power or so, or you're in a position of power that's like pretty important or so, you should not be very emotionally charged. You should be very logical, at like assess the situation in multiple different angles and try to find a way to minimize the situation itself as much as possible, you know?
Important component. Um,
Funny thing is, this ghoul was friends with all their weirdos a month ago. Now he red pilled once his friends, backstabbed them. His hypocrisy incarnate. What? I don't even know. I don't even know what that is.
Meet the old boss, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. It's not like this is totally going away. I think that we're just replacing one form of this behavior with another. And that's very worrisome to me. And I think that really what's going to continue to happen is you're going to have more people pushing back against, established social norms as much as possible, and making a push more towards traditionalism, more towards conservatism. And I think that this is also happening again because of that lack of meaning and culture. You don't have the same shared culture that something like a religion provides. And because of that, you're having tons of people that don't know what to do with their life. They don't know who they are, they don't know what their identity is, because the previous things and previous lives that have given them that identity are now being taken away or have been taken away. I think probably the best example of that is with jobs. So when somebody has their a job replaced by AI or replaced with automation, and they're not able to get a new one or something like that, and they are disconnected from the value of their work, I think that again, there's something that's existential that's taken away from that person, because now they no longer can take pride and take pleasure in the idea that they have done good work and they are contributing to their community, or they are doing something that's positive. And of course, obviously, why is that? Number one, it's because a lot of these jobs are, computer jobs, and so it's not really as directly evident in the same way that, like, you can do something that's more physical. That's number one.
He's fighting Destiny and Twitch and YouTube after bans, but agreed with them all not too long ago. I don't think he's fighting Destiny. Why does he need to fight against YouTube and Twitch? I don't remember him ever being banned off YouTube. I'm like, he has his YouTube channel still here. So because once you're banned off YouTube, you can't come back to YouTube. So, and he wasn't suspended he wasn't banned off Twitch, he was suspended off Twitch.
And then also number two is they're not really being paid very well. So you have people that have shitty jobs, they're not being paid very well, and guess what? They're looking for some form of meaning in life and somebody to tell them that that worldview is not going to last. Things are going to keep getting better. And anybody that sells that person a solution is going to have a lot of fucking buyers. And I think that's very clearly what's happened. So what I expect to see happen now is that you're going to see probably a lot of people who have been pushing back against the culture of, like, cancel culture and people getting, banned for having wrong opinions on things. Obviously, it'll still happen sometimes. I don't know, maybe I've got an example of that one way or another. But I think that, of course, sometimes that will still happen, but it has been much less common. And you're even seeing things like, I think that another benchmark for this is that, you can look back at the Hogwarts legacy, the debacle with that and how angry everybody was with J.K. Rowling. And now that there's a new Harry Potter project, the studio that's doing it has even said, it's her freedom of speech. She can think what she wants. And so I think that is a tremendous divergence from what previously was the case, where you were not able to have certain opinions about certain topics like that. J.K. Rowling had controversial opinions about trans people. Whether you agree with them or not, you have to acknowledge that they were controversial with a lot of people. And because of that, people didn't want Harry Potter.
Yeah, but it's her opinion at the end of the day. You take it how you want it to be, man. But it's her opinion at the end of the day. So I don't even remember or know what she said about trans people or so. Probably people in the comment section can probably let me know specifically what she talked about, because I don't really remember any of it. So, because I never paid attention to it. I don't even pay attention to her specifically. I just played the game. I didn't finish the game, but we'll come back to finish it one of these days, and that's pretty much about it. So,
existing anymore, right? And I think that after that kind of reaches its logical conclusion, where it's no longer seen as a reasonable response, and now it's just like an overcorrection that is fueled primarily by anger and frustration, then you're really going to see people kind of lose interest with that type of movement. And I think that's exactly what's happened. I think that a lot of people are just tired of having their opinions dictated to them. They're tired of not being able to think things that they believe are just a priori knowledge. Like, this is just, it is known to be the case. Obviously, there's the difference between men and women, etc.
Of course, there's a difference between men and women. People who say that there's no difference between men or women are so dumb. It's like low IQ brain, There's a huge difference between men and women. Okay? I'm sorry that I don't live in fairyland. Okay? All right? There is a huge difference between men and women, okay? All right? God.
And this big split has happened, and now there aren't the same censorship apparatuses that maintain the previous power structure. And so you're seeing tons of people now speaking out against it, and really nothing happening because of it, for better or for worse, again. And so I think you're going to continue seeing that happen. You're going to continue seeing people pushing back against, like, these mainstream narratives. And I think that the pushback will eventually become just as oppressive as the narrative originally was. Because that's the way the pendulum always swings. Things always keep going until there's...
It's not just the uterus. I'm like, physically there's a difference. Appearances, there's a difference. Mentality is a difference. There's multiple factors of what makes men and women different.
There's too much, and they always stop when there's too little, right? That's it. And so, people love to radicalize, people love to become extreme, and I think the internet has provided a perfect place for people to radicalize themselves. And I think it's happened because of the lack of meaning with religion. I think it's happened because of the lack of meaning with, gainful employment. I think it's happened with the lack of meaning culturally. There's no sense of, shared culture in the U.S., at least not as much as whenever I was a kid.
Those damn chromosomes.
And I think you put all these things together, and you have an existential crisis.
Until you guys can change chromosomes, like to the molecular level or so. Unless you guys have access to that, right? Where you can literally change your chromosomes and then change your appearances to be female, right? Completely, 100% female. It's impossible. So J.K. Rowling expressed her opinion on the trans community and was hounded for it instead of conforming to the idea of the woke crowd. Challenge accepted. I wish you luck on that. I don't like I said, I don't know what she said. I don't know what she said. I don't know what the opinions are. I want to know what the opinions are. That's why.
That an individual has, and they're looking for anybody to replace that. And where a lot of these like socio-political movements come from, that's why you're seeing a lot of people get back more into religion now. I think that religion is making a pretty big comeback.
Religion is making a pretty big comeback. I don't really feel like that's how it is. It's just people who are just tired of the leftists just being people who silence people who have their own opinions. They're tired of that. You know? They're tired of the weird, weird woke mindness of, quotation marks woke, It's just the weird opinion on the other side that like silence people for them not agreeing on their opinions and everything like that, and also this weird pronouns, and stuff like that. That makes like no sense, right? When in the English literature for pronouns, they're used, they're used for like a group of people, like they and them. It means a group of individuals of saying those people, they are, you know. Like I remember those specific words were used for sentence structures to describe a group of people, just a group of people, men, women, all men, a combination of children, men, and women. Of saying like they are over there, or them right there, officer. It's them, I don't fucking know. Like that's what they were used for. That's literally the words what they were used for back then. I don't know about religion being a huge comeback, to be honest. I kind of disagree on that. Maybe in his territory, maybe in his state or so, maybe. That could probably be it, But I don't really see it like over here. I don't see it like it's a major fucking thing or so.
And I think the reason for that is because people are looking for that antidote of modern existence. They're looking for like the way that they can order the world that makes sense, because the way that people are talking about it on the internet really doesn't. And so I wanted to talk about this because I think it's a very interesting thing, and I think it's going to shift the way that all media is portrayed. Now, obviously, things like this are a very big boat. It takes a long time to turn, but you can already see that happening with people that had previously like problematic opinions, etc., just kind of get ignored in a way that I don't think would have happened 3 or 4 years ago. And if you want my personal opinion on the whole thing, I think that's a good thing. I feel like the amount of, as I said before, emotional blackmail and censorship and compelled speech that was on the internet for, I'd say the last, I'd say like from 2017 or 18 to like 2022, somewhere around there, I think that it did radicalize a lot of people. I wouldn't really consider myself radicalized, but I would consider myself very aware. And now I am extremely skeptical of any type of censorship. I'm very skeptical of any type of, compelled thought or compelled.
Yeah, same as well. I don't know. The void. We don't really censor stuff. We don't censor speeches. We tell the truth. Good or bad. Even like the nude, even like the sexual like nudity stuff or so, right? For like how like there's some stuff that America doesn't approve. Like when it comes to like video games, when it comes to anime, when it comes to like other specific media stuff, right? That they censored kind of weird or so. Like we don't do that in the void because, we're all adults and can understand that, like, certain people are not allowed to watch certain content, and you got to be responsible for, what your young ones are doing. So I don't know. I don't know. It's always so weird or so to think that like America like has to censor so much shit. Like there's some things should be censored, right? But then there's some other stuff that makes no sense for censorship. Let people say their piece. It's up to the individual person to see what clicks with them or what doesn't. Teach common sense of your civilization and good morals. Yeah, of course. Ours specifically, we don't censor people. If they have an opinion, they voice their opinion. If you agree, you agree. If you don't, you don't. You just kind of move on. You just kind of say your opinion about it, specifically about it, saying like, oh no, I don't really agree with so and so and so, and then they just move on, and then that's pretty much it. So, hey, Eden. Except our attractions are terrible. What do you mean attractions? Are you talking about like carnival attractions or something? Yeah. That's always the weird part. That's always the weird part about it that I don't understand about America in general. About just some of the logics that people use. Yeah, like having a little bit of cleavage or so is like a big no-no, but then you can have all this blood and gore and violence and everything, you know? Is kind of a bit ridiculous in my personal opinion. We have no good roller coasters. I haven't been to a Miko Expo in a long time. Hmm. I know that your guys' internet aren't super great though. So, I know that for a fact for Australia. I don't know if it still holds up. Yeah, but he's a comedian. He's supposed to be funny. Related to Twitch? What are you talking about? I don't know who this is. Yeah, there was a video I saw specifically about where like there was like I know in California, I think in San Francisco, there's the like LGBT like pride parade and shit. I don't know if it's from the same place specifically, but they would bring kids and their parents to these parades or so, like on an island and everything. But then like some of these LGBT people or so are like wearing very skimpy outfits, you know? Some of them, not all of them, right? I know there's some good people that are just normal, normal people, right? But there's some who are kind of wearing like very skimpy outfits, and kind of a little bit weird, that are kind of weird in my personal opinion. Kind of makes me uncomfortable of seeing that.
Speech. And I'm in general the kind of guy that believes that
Yeah.
the best, reaction to, bad speech is good
I think
speech.
that's kind of like the bad way to kind of show what's the LGBT, Q plus,
That counters
It's
it,
really
and
bad. No matter what you look at it, there's no logical way for you to be showing, your nakedness, to kids whatsoever. Like at all. Doesn't matter who you are. You should not be doing that. So, yeah.
in the free marketplace of ideas, the best ideas will usually win out. So I wanted to make this video and talk about it because I've never really had the opportunity to like really formulate what I really believe with this kind of stuff. And hopefully you guys can kind of see how this shift has happened and how you've observed it yourself. And I'd be curious in the comments, other kind of barometers or like temperature checks you've seen and where you've kind of seen, oh wow, yeah, things really are different now. And I feel like we're going to continue seeing them become more and more different than what they were. And in general, I can see that becoming a bad thing, but also, especially with people being able to think for themselves and no compelled speech, etc. And I think this is a very good thing. So overall, I do think it was all pretty much started with Elon Musk buying Twitter because it was the first break in the giant wall of thought policing and compelled thought on the internet. As soon as Twitter opened up, then everybody came through and exposed all of the weaknesses in that ideology, and I think it pretty much destroyed it. So we'll see how things go. Obviously, anything like this doesn't happen overnight, but I've really found it to be incredibly interesting and compelling to watch and experience over the last probably 3 or 4 years. 2 or 3 years, hard really to say. And I'm curious to see where it's going to go. And that's about it, guys. So let me know what you think in the comments, and
Very interesting. It's very interesting to see that like, like there's nothing wrong for you to say like, hey, we don't want any illegals in our countries. There's literally nothing wrong with that, Like if you want to come to the country, you can legally come here. And then also the weird part of using like emotional like stuff to target somebody to make them feel like they're the villain or they're the bad person, which I think it's pretty dumb, and pretty a low IQ movement, and pretty thoughtless kind of type of individual to use emotional guilt trip on somebody who's using logical reasoning to kind of like minimize, a situation itself, you know. I feel like that's definitely something that's kind of stupid in my personal opinion, to use like emotional tactics to kind of get their way, in my personal opinion. I don't know, it's just that, you know, all my Mexican friends hate illegals more than anyone I know. I'm like, well, yeah, because they're not paying taxes, right? They're not paying taxes. They're living here, you know, compared to other immigrants who migrated over here legally. Is a completely story. They're paying taxes, they're working, they have a family and all this other shit, because even Mama Azathoth got all the paperwork and shit ready to come over here. So I don't know, it's just kind of like, I don't know. It's just, well, for me personally, where do I stand specifically on this situation? Like, am I on the side of like, of this, or I'm on the side of that? I'm gonna be honest with you. I really don't care, right? The logical reason I have to say, right, is that if you came here illegally, you're breaking the law and you should be captured and you should be sent back. It's very simple as that, you know? I don't hate you. I'm not a racist. It's just that you're in a country that you came in illegally and you're breaking the law. That's it. You know? That's literally it. You're just breaking the rules. There are rules to be placed and you have to follow the rules. And if you're not following the rules, well then it's like what's the point of having rules at the end of the day? I don't know what that is. Don't care, don't care. We're all a little racist. I think everyone's a little bit of racist, to be honest. I think everyone has a little bit of racism inside of inside of everybody. So, like, for God's sakes, look at PewDiePie. He literally dropped the N word or so on a bridge, you know. But even then, he's just saying it as he's just saying it as a gamer word, you know. He's just calling someone that or so because they killed him, you know. I think so, or they were shooting at him or something like that. I don't know, something like that specifically. I don't really remember though. I'm like everyone has some percentage of racism inside of them. Yeah, it wasn't meant to be an insult. I completely understand the context of PewDiePie dropping the N word on the bridge. I completely understand that. So you can. It's pretty easy because even in New York or California, right? They passed a law or so where you don't get jailed or something like that if you don't steal more than $1,200 or something like that from a store. And I'm like, if you're stealing, you should be prosecuted for stealing. You know. Granted, if it's a pack of gum or so, that's completely a different story. But like, if you're stealing more than like I don't know $5, $10 or something like that, you know, it kind of like impacts the business itself. It's kind of like, well, you should be, captured, held something or so responsibility for that. Yeah, less than 900. Yeah, you get a slap on the wrist, which I think is pretty stupid. Look, California changed the law to actually make it illegal again. Thank God it passed this year. Oh, it did? Okay, I see. You got prosecuted, but because of the BLM riots, it goes out of hand and our state officials let them go? Really? That makes no sense. The BLM riot was like, just kind of like, I feel like I feel like when I'm listening to the BLM thing or so, I just feel like it's just for like the rights or so for like for black people, right? But like, but if you're a black individual and you stole something that's like $200 worth of stuff, it doesn't matter what color of the shade of your skin is, you should still be fined and go to jail for it, you know? Like, I understand that the Black Lives Matter thing was supposed to, like, well, at least to, like, my basic, right? To understand, like, what I personally think, like, a matter, right? Like, the Black Lives Matter thing or so. What I personally think is, like, oh, they're trying to make, black people, feel better and whatnot, and trying to fight for something, that's a noble cause, right? Question mark. That's what I think it's what it was, right? But then like using Black Lives Matters specifically on like, if a black person or so is like, getting fined or so, or going to jail or so, or suffering the consequences of stealing something like $200, they're like, no, you shouldn't put that person in jail, because he's black. I'm like, it doesn't matter if he's black, Asian, white, Hispanic, fucking Indian, fucking any other color of the rainbow or so. They should be going to jail, and period. Okay, that's it. That's literally it. So I think we should all just go back to the 80s and 90s when slurs were used as jokes. Today's pansies are weak. It's just the problem is right, guinea pig. The problem is like we can't use most of those. Like would it be pretty funny to just drop the n word or so on like on a fighting game or something, like the girl that the girl that we saw a while back. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Like I'm not gonna say it's not funny whatsoever, right? Because that's how it was back in the 80s and the 90s, right? But like the problem is now these days and age now, the problem is the companies will come after the platform. We're doing it on a public platform, of course, right? We're on a public platform. We're a public figure. You have to act in a certain mannerism, in a certain way. There's just certain places and certain times where you should be acting in a certain different manner. Like for me and my Australian friend, right? We act differently compared to if we were doing stuff online. Like when we're offline, we're completely having fun. We're making dark jokes. We're having a good old grand old time. Do we make racist jokes from time to time? Yeah, we do. It's pretty fucking funny, because that's my friend, you know, and that's pretty much about it. Compared to here, you're not gonna hear me say any of those stuff on a public platform or public anything. We let companies being the moral police, and it's just bad. It's just letting companies try to be parent to kids or profit. Yeah, like I'm different. I'm always different with certain friend groups. Okay, like with my closest friends, I'm gonna act differently with them compared to some of my VTuber friends. With some of my VTuber friends, I'm not gonna act the same way as I am with my friend Sage than I am with a VTuber friend. It's just not gonna work that way. Now, unless they have the same mindset as my friend Sage, then that's a different story. But that rarely happens, and no two people are the same. See, that's like the huge difference. And he's my Australian friend. Him, Sage, Insomnia, you know, like those two specifically, right? I talk a little bit more different with them. We joke around. We make fun of people. We make fun of stuff. I even have a couple other friends too as well that we just kind of just have fun. We don't have to worry about like other weird people thinking like, "Oh, you shouldn't be saying that. You shouldn't be saying that." I'd be like, "Why shouldn't I not be saying that?" It's like, "Oh, it's because, blah 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 blah." I'm like, "I don't care, dude. I don't care." You know? I'm having fun with my friends and that's it. You're not the boss of me. I do whatever I want. I don't know. To be frankly honest, it's just whatever. Like I said, I like different friend groups. I'm always different. But anyways, yeah. Like let me say this for example, right? Let's say for example I know you guys, right? Like I know you guys as friends, right? Let's say like we're like friends, right? You, me, right? But then I have my friend Sage, which I'm super close. Like I'm more super close, right? I'm not gonna do the same jokes, right? The same dark jokes and the same humor that I do with Sage compared to you guys. I'm not gonna do the same thing because I don't know how you are. I don't know how you guys are. Like yes, we hang out sometimes from here to there, but I'm not gonna do the same jokes. Like there's also another good example where there's two friend groups, right? Sage is one of them. Sage is one friend group, like because he's pretty much the perfect example, right? Where Sage, I can be, we can have fun, we can say racist jokes from time to time, um we can say some stupid shit or so with each other. But then I have another friend group, right? Specifically, they're more mm, they're more conservative. They don't really lean too much into that stuff. But they're not too far, they're not too far off the spectrum on the left side. They're kind of like in the middle, but they kind of lean a little bit towards the left, but not by like a whole lot or so. But I'm not going to do the same jokes that I do with Sage with them. I'm completely different with those people. And it's just, it is what it is, So and that's pretty much it. Like am I going to be honest here? Did I ever drop the N bomb or so in the old days? Like in the super old days? Probably in a Call of Duty lobby, maybe. I don't really remember though. It's been like forever since I remember Call of Duty though. And granted, I learned it from Call of Duty at the end of the day. So because they called me the N-word. they called me the N-word. So so I'm just like, so I just repeated and said it back to them because they called me that. I had no idea what it was though. I had no idea what the N-word was because like they just kind of called me the N-word, and I just called them back as well because like I don't know, I don't even know what it means. So yeah, so that's pretty much about it. So yeah, as a black man, I give you the pass. I don't really say it though, but like I said it because like I never understood, like I've never heard of the N-word ever in my entire life until I started playing Call of Duty Black Ops 1. And I heard people dropping the A word, right? And then I hear them dropping the R, and then they would say the F word, right? And then they would call me retarded. They would call me retarded. They would call me you stupid retarded person, go make me a sandwich or something, Like they would call me that, or like go back to the fucking kitchen, when they find out that I'm a female, Um just like dumb stuff, Like I never knew what any of those stuff was, right? So then I just called them back in return, I just say the same thing what they told me back in return to them, so I didn't find out until like a little bit more later, like a couple days. Like a couple days later when I talked to my friends or so, IRL, because they know a little bit more than I do. And they kind of explained to me specifically what they were. I was like, oh, okay, I see. But they didn't really care. They didn't really care if I said it in game or so, if I ever said it in game. I don't think I ever did though. I never really said it in game. Only that one time when they called me the N-word. They called me the N-word. And it's like, it's kind of like I had no idea what it was. So I just like called them back the N-word. I was just like, I don't understand what's happening, but yeah. But it's okay anyways. I always beat their asses anyways at the end of the day because my game skills were better than them. So I think because they were upset because I beat them. I think that's like the only reason why, Like they get really fucking quiet when you actually beat the shit out of them, like really badly. And they just stay quiet. I'm just like, yeah, now you're staying quiet, aren't you, huh? Why aren't you speaking? I always say this. Why aren't you speaking? What's wrong? What's wrong? Philip 4567, speak. What's wrong, huh? And then they stay quiet or so, and then and that's pretty much about it. Or they'll say that I'm hacking or something like that. Like they'll say you're a hacker. But anyways, yeah, that was a pretty interesting video. unfortunately, like a lot of people's lives or so are kind of like on this. Well, it's because a lot of people make money off YouTube and Twitch, right? And unfortunately, the advertisers don't want certain specific content or certain specific words to be, to be on the platform, which I get it, right? I understand specifically, like I think it's fine if you're like, if you have like a group of friends, right, that you're really close with, right, like you're super knit, like tight to the core, right, that you guys are together, like touching your guys' penises, um and you guys do, like, you guys drop the N-bomb, you guys make like racist jokes to each other, you guys make dark humor to each other, then that's fine, but then when you're on the public platform, I think you should probably have some kind of filter, in my personal opinion. I think that's just fine, I think just you being a little bit different in different groups, I think it's just fine. I think that's a-okay. I think I'm okay with it personally, because that means, you're aware, you're kind of more, you kind of pay attention to your surroundings, a little bit more logical to be like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be acting like this in this sort of manner with these kinds of people, and then I should be, like another good example specifically, right? Like, I'm super lewd with some of my friends, right? With certain individuals, I'm lewd with them because we make lewd jokes all the time. But then some of my other VTuber friends, right? Like, I'm gonna say my VTuber friends, specifically because I don't hang out with them 24/7. I don't hang out with them all the time. You know, like this is pretty much like the best example that I can give you, right? With certain friends that I hang out with, right? I'm lewd towards them because we make lewd jokes to each other. But then with VTuber friends, I'm not the same way with them because I don't know them that well, and I don't know how they're going to take it, you know. I'm more conservative to doing lewd jokes from time to time, unless like they are lewd, unless they start being lewd towards me first, then I can understand and be like, okay, so she's being lewd towards me, I can be lewd towards her back, you know. I'd rather have them initiate the lewd talk before I open my mouth to do the lewd talk, just so I can be like, okay, so this person likes to do these kinds of jokes or sexual innuendos or like, or all that stuff, then I can bounce off and do the same thing with them, So that's pretty much about it, but yeah, anyways, like I was just trying to give examples specifically about this sort of manner of like just being different between different people or so, or different groups of friends. But yeah, that's the end of the video. You guys can comment, like, subscribe, do all that fancy jazzy stuff. And yeah, this is pretty interesting. What a very interesting video to kind of, you know, to kind of watch or so. I never really watch any of these videos specifically. But anyways, that's the end of the video. And peace.